Hey guys, I hope you enjoy this episode. It is a final episode, year-end recap of 2024. Blessings and lessons. I hope you guys enjoy it. Need some effective tactical advice that actually helps you get results and makes a real difference in your life and business? You've come to the right place. If you're finding yourself here today, it means you're getting ready to gain serious traction in your business, rapidly multiply your income and impact, and you're ready to make it happen while living all out. Guys, I'm Melissa Hinault, your trustworthy corporate dropout turned six-figure business burnout turned happy and healthy CEO of a multi-million-dollar online business. And you're listening to the Burnout to All Out podcast. On this show, we're serving up innovative growth strategies, simple implementation methods to put them into practice, and action-stimulating inspiration tailored specifically for the modern entrepreneur. Let's dive in. Hello, friends. I am going live this afternoon, coming in hot after a Christmas party celebration with my second grader, my son Wyatt. So much fun. Coming to you today with an end of year podcast episode. I'm just going to go ahead and apologize in advance for those of you listening to this episode later. My fancy microphone is not working, and I am so non-tech savvy that I can't fix it. So I am just streaming live with my old school microphone speaker set with my computer. So you will just have to bear with me because I didn't want to miss this episode just because the tech wasn't perfect. Isn't that the spirit of entrepreneurship? Like just moving forward anyway, imperfect action. I mean, that is one of the most critical lessons and blessings in business, right? So today is about my end of year recap. It's a reflection of 2024. And the things I've gleaned, the things I've learned, the things I'm grateful for. And I want to just kick off at the top of this podcast and say that growth isn't always about revenue in business. And I'm going to say that one more time. Growth for you as the CEO is not always about revenue in business. This journey for me this year was a major growth year. And when you look at our revenue growth, where we grew 380% last year, which was unheard of, this year, revenue-wise, we grew 30%, which for an outsider looking in, wow, like 30% is great, right? But from the inside looking out, it was, man, that was like barely moving the needle compared to last year. But the growth and wisdom that I gleaned in this growth year, the growth and the wisdom that my team gleaned this year was priceless. So as you're listening to this episode, if this was a year for you that wasn't an astronomical revenue growth year, but there were a lot of challenges and opportunities that you were up against, I encourage you to think about where you grew through the challenge, where you grew through the journey. And that's really what today's episode is about. That growth isn't always measured by revenue as a CEO, and it shouldn't be. As a matter of fact, like I said, we grew 32% this year, but my margins were down. The company made more money, but the margins were less. What that means is it cost me more to run my business this year. So there were some lessons in running my business this year at a cost, pun intended, revenue cost and a cost of learning. But I grew and the team grew significantly. This year was what I call a base camp year. It was a recover from hypergrowth year, recover from this acceleration from the year before to reload, recalibrate, get our wits about us before we take off for the next climb. What I want to say at the top of this is that many times CEOs, we have to evolve and grow for our businesses to follow us. We have to evolve and grow for the businesses to follow us. We may have a growth idea in our business and we may call it out, but if you don't have the tool set as the CEO and you don't have the capacity to hold it yet, you don't have the capacity to lead the company to that end goal, You, my friend, are going to have to grow first before the business follows. I want to say that at the beginning of the year in January, I'm very big on deep meditation and visioning and intuition. And I got some major downloads from the very beginning of the year when I was hitting some major headwinds, and I'll talk about it, where I had these visions of these beautiful trees losing all of their leaves, being shooken in the wind. Yet the tree itself was fully grounded. But in order for the tree to evolve and expand and have even more access to sun in the next year, it needed to shed all of its leaves for the regrowth, for the rebirth. And so these visions and words kept coming to me at the beginning of the year that I was in for a year of shedding. I was in for a year of the tree being tested, the tree being jostled so that the dead leaves could go by the wayside, create expansion, to create opportunity for new growth, to allow the tree, the business, to expand even further. Many of you who are in gardening know that you actually have to prune the dead leaves, the dead flowers, in order for plants to grow. So that's going to be some foreshadowing for my year this year. What I want to underscore is what I've learned in this past year, in the past 2 years, really, but it came to a point this year. Running $1 million a year company is not the same as running a multi-million dollar a year company. It's not the same as running a $5 million a year company. Many of you have probably heard this, but I experience this at every level. Whatever you've done to get you where you are today is not what's going to take you to where you want to go. More of the same is, for the most part, not going to take you to the next level in your business. The scale is real. When you're scaling a business to the multi-millions, the complexities of scaling are real. And you only know when you're in the thick of it. I was in the thick of it this year. And so what I want to talk about first, I'm going to talk about a couple of different categories of things this year. And the first thing I want to talk about is where I lost my power. We were on this mass trajectory last year. We grew 380%. The company had really nice fat profit margins. And we were going into the new year. And it was like, let's do more of the same. What my vision was, I want to bring in a top level marketer who can just drop more leads into the top of the funnel that's working. Let's bring a marketer in who knows what we don't know. Okay, keep this in mind. I'm like, let me bring someone in who knows what I don't know, because I've got the money in the business and I want to bring in the expert and I want to delegate out their expertise, right? And I thought I could just hire someone to grow the business for us. And I gave away my power too soon, right? I'm going to say this one more time. I gave away my power too soon, right when the company was really taking off. And one of the largest, most expansive growth we'd ever experienced. Think about this. The following year, I'm like, hey, I'm going to hand the keys to you and you give us direction on what to do. Think about that. When I, as the CEO, had led the business to where it was today, I gave up my power too soon. I overhired and I brought in too much headcount. And by the way, this is very common. And some of you listening know, because you've run businesses, you've experienced this. This is very typical in business growth. There's growth years, you overhire, then you prune, and then you acclimate, you get to base camp. You kind of reorient, and then you go into another growth year. So I overhired and really spent this year recalibrating, because when you call in that much, when you grow 380%, you have to serve what you've called in. You have to manage what you've called in. You have to lead what you've called in. It's capacity. And I've never been there before. I didn't know what I didn't know. I was unconsciously incompetent. If you follow me, you know I love these words. I was unconsciously incompetent at the beginning of this year. I didn't know what I needed to know to go to the next level. So I gave up my power and said, here, maybe you know. Here, CMO, right? Take this. And so I gave away my power. And when things didn't go as planned in January, my first launch of the year, I was like, we're going to do 1 million in revenue. That was my big goal this year. We're going to crush 1 million in revenue. First launch went sideways for a number of different reasons. And we did about half that. We did about 550, maybe 600, maybe 550,000 in revenue. And I started to second guess my knowledge. I started to second guess if I knew what I was actually doing. Have you ever been in those shoes? Have you ever made decisions in your business and then the results were not what you expected? And then you start to second guess yourself instead of stepping back and appreciating that this is part of the journey of business. Things don't always go right. And it doesn't mean the world's coming to an end. So I started to have a slight panic. And this is where I not only gave up my power to someone else who really knew nothing about my business, but had a background in marketing. I also want to fold in the next piece of what I'm going to talk about is the fear of the lack of safety, right? When things weren't going my way at the beginning of the year, my initial thought was panic. And it wasn't a reality, but it was my childhood insecurities from my childhood traumas that immediately literally triggered my root chakra of like, we're not safe. The guards are up. We're not safe. Even though this wasn't true, my body was physically telling me, we're not safe. You might not be able to feed the kids tomorrow. The house might burn down, but I'm fed. There's electricity. Everything's fine. I made $500,000 in 9 days, but I'm panicked, right? The beauty of this is it took me down this journey that I needed to go on this year in two directions. The continual inner work that needs to be done. Because if you know, I've been going on this journey of inner work for the past couple of years. It never stops. It's like you pull the string in the sweater and it just continues. There's two journeys I went on this year. One was an inward journey of where does this fear-based mentality come from and how can I unravel it and unroot it? And number two, why am I losing my confidence as the CEO? Why am I giving away my power? And it took me on this beautiful journey. And when you're in the thick of it, you're like, why me, right? The great thing is I've been here before. And when you've been through this before and you've come out of it, it's familiar. And that was the one kind of blankie I could tell you I had was like, I knew, and I even told Sam, my spiritual mentor, when things didn't go my way at the beginning of January, I knew in my soul, I had the intuition and full body vibes that there were great lessons for me this year, that I was going to have significant headwinds that were necessary to mold me, to shape me, to grow me for bigger impact. I would lie not to tell you at the moment I was nervous and terrified. I also was embracing it because I knew if this is happening to me right now, I knew what I was about to endure was necessary to gain the skills I needed to become the CEO my company needed me to become. So I want to say that out front. So literally in January, maybe it was February, it became very evident to me two things. Number one, you're operating from a place of fear that is unnecessary right now, and it stems from your childhood, and you need to do the work of the childhood trauma that you've never addressed and get it out of your body. Because otherwise, every time things don't go quite right in your business, your nervous system is going to overreact as if you're not safe. And by the way, friends, this is really unhealthy for your business. Your business needs a calm and collected CEO who feels safe. Because what happens when you don't feel safe is you make decisions from a place of fear, and decisions from a place of fear will destroy a company. And so this is why I really want to underscore that I went on two parallel journeys this year of the inner work and the trauma that needed to be worked through and the CEO development and strategy. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So I will tell you right now, the work I had to do this year working with a trauma-informed therapist was way more work than anything I had to do getting under the hood of my business and really owning the structure of my company and the KPIs and the details around the revenue. But know that I doubled down over a period of months, and I committed in a group mastermind that I'm in, where every year we commit. What are we committed to that year before we check in as a peer group? And in past years, I'd always committed to, it was like numbers related. I'm going to invest 10% in a business. I'm going to grow my business by XYZ by implementing ABC 1, 2, 3. It was always very tactical. And that was 3 years into the mastermind. And this year I stood up in front of all of my peers and said, I am going to do the work that needs to be done to unravel the trauma in my nervous system so that I can respond and behave as a cool, calm leader that is not only self-preserving for the company, but creates growth for the company because I operate from a place of feeling safe. And that was hard for me to say. Being an Enneagram 8 who's very competitive and numbers oriented, right? And I leaned in and I did the work. And I can tell you to this day, I dreaded the calls. I dreaded the emotion that was going to come up and was going to come out. But what happened over those months was beautiful. There were so many revelations and neutralizations energetically. And the one thing I can tell you for those of you in the woo realm is that coming into January, my left hip, I could not sit Indian style because there was so much tension. And this came from that root chakra, childhood trauma, the energy that I was just holding in my hips. And I'm here to tell you today that I can sit Indian style. I can sit for hours. That hip is totally open. The trauma, the energy has been rooted out like a tooth extraction. Okay. All right. So that's number one, right? And I had to go through that spiritually and energetically to prepare me for where the company's going next. That was critical. So that's number one. I had to work through the childhood insecurities. And I also had to do the work to gain my power back, my confidence and my intuition back. Because when things weren't going as planned, I began to second guess everything I was saying that we needed to do as a company and everything I was agreeing to. And what I realized, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but I realized I was at my lid. I was consciously incompetent. I had grown this company to the multi-million-dollar mark and I was at my lid. I didn't know where to go next. And I needed the mentorship to get me there. But I was prepared. So this is the second piece of my podcast here, is that I was prepared for such a time as this, right? What I want to say is, even though I was experiencing nervous system dysregulation, I was experiencing the fear, the rooted fear in my body of lack of safety. What I want to underscore here is I'm not a novice in this space. If this is the first time you're hearing me, you're watching LinkedIn, it's the first podcast you're hearing from me. I'm not a novice in the space of being in tune with my nervous system. As a matter of fact, if this year had happened to me a couple of years ago, it would have destroyed me. But I was made and prepared for such a time as this. I believe the universe was ready to hand me this year because the universe knew I had the tools in my tool belt to, number one, be aware that the work needed to be done and enough tools to begin to self-regulate during a challenging year. I know for me, it hasn't actually been business strategy per se over the last 2 to 3 years that's created the accelerated hypergrowth of my company. If you've been following me for quite some time, as a matter of fact, you would know that I still sell the same things I've always sold, and I'm running the same sales strategy I've always run. So what have I done to create the capacity to hold more and call in more? My friends, it is the inner work that most entrepreneurs aren't willing to do and don't recognize as one of the most important assets in business. Bodies build businesses, my friends. Learning how to manage my stress in a healthy way, learning how to move through uncharted territory and find intuitive downloads and trust my gut to make the right decisions have been some of the critical components to success over the past couple of years. Another area that's been super critical for me has been being able to tap in and get into creative flow state. I call this rocket fuel. My friends, I am collaborating with one of my dearest friends and mentors, Sam Barber. For the first time ever, we are launching this program together called The Modern Entrepreneur, where we are supporting business owners in the mind, body, spirituality, and energetics of what it truly takes to be successful in the entrepreneurial realm. There is loads and loads of information on strategies to grow your business for entrepreneurs. But what is lacking in the industry is the emotional support that entrepreneurs need to be resilient and succeed in operating in an unknown space day over day and do it healthily in a way that allows them to have the capacity to hold what they are calling in. So, my friends, some of you are listening to this and you're like, oh, I don't need that mindset work. I don't need that energy work. I am here to tell you, my clients who have grown exponentially this year all have given me feedback that it's the inner work that we've offered in our first version of Modern Entrepreneur that surprisingly was the rocket fuel to their success. So my friends, the doors are open to the modern entrepreneur right now. It pairs beautifully with any business coaching program you are a part of. We will be working with you twice a month. Once will be an actual workshop where you're learning tools and skill sets to become the self-regulated entrepreneur that is needed to succeed in this industry. The other call per month is an integration call with Sam. We call it Ask Sam Anything for hot seats in coaching to navigate uncharted territory in the realm of entrepreneurship where bodies build businesses. Guys, seats are filling up fast. I encourage you to check it out. There's also a live event component that you can add. Come hang out with us live. Spend some time with us in North Carolina and in Miami. There's 2 live events where we can meet you face to face and work with you in person. My friends, I hope to see you on the other side. So as the headwinds hit me this year, and every launch I was saying, we're going to do this, and we'd miss our goal. Like every launch, I was going for $1 million. Every launch. Guess what? The whole year went by. We didn't hit a single $1 million launch. We didn't. Now, we did have 1 month where we did over 900,000 in committed revenue. Whoop, whoop. But we never did the $1 million launch. And I hit significant headwinds and challenges that I could do multiple podcasts on. Maybe I will in the new year. But the challenges were necessary to challenge me, to evolve me and change me as a leader in order to evolve to my next self, to where the company is headed. The company and my team and my clients needed me to become this new person, to lead them. And it was only going to happen through the resistance. The resistance can either fold you or mold you. I'm going to say that one more time. The resistance can either fold you or it can mold you, right? So leveraging nervous system regulation and intuition practices this year, it guided me back home and gave me the skills and gave me the capacity to hold the challenge and be molded. See, I'd been in scenarios like this before. Maybe the stakes weren't as high. Maybe I hadn't grown as big of a business. But now, from the last 2 years of doing so much work on nervous system regulation, I was able to calm myself to work through this and to find experts like Sam to help me navigate. Like I said, 3 years ago, a year like this would have broken me. But this year, I had my breath work. I had my tapping. And I would wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. I can't tell you how many times this year. When you're running a multi-million-dollar a year business, I'm here to tell you the more money you make, the more responsibility you have, the more mouths you have to feed, the more clients you have to serve, more is on the line. So if you think if I make more, then life will be easier, then life will be better, I'm here to tell you bullshit. The responsibilities are bigger. The stress is higher. And what's even more important is that despite that, you have the skill set to work through it. So the tapping, the meditation, every day this year, from 9 to 10 o'clock, morning practice of silence, right? Getting grounded, getting clear, mindset reprogramming, recognizing when I was in a slightly panicked mode where I could get into overdrive and overwork, or if you're watching me, I've got a couch behind me, or in the midst of it, lay on the couch, put an eye mask on, and do hypno breath work for 21 minutes to calm my nervous system. Then I could think clearly and take radical action in the right direction and get quickly re-regulated. So I'll say that's one of the things I'm most proud of this year is how quickly I could bounce back with some really challenging scenarios. Like one of the things that happened in our business this year is that we had a moment where our processor was just dropping our billing completely. Imagine running hundreds of thousands of dollars through your business every month that you run your business with, you pay your team with, and all of a sudden you find out there's a huge leaky hole and you can't figure out what's going on from a tech perspective and why you're losing this revenue, right? Panic moments enough to bring you to your knees. Most proud moment is like in the midst of that, keeping my calm. Now, I will say I had a massive moment of bawling during that. My husband walked in on a Saturday and I totally lost it. But I will say that I learned through this year that I was willing and okay to be vulnerable to him. I can't handle this right now. But within literally 24 hours, bouncing back because I came up with a game plan when I was feeling overwhelmed. Instead of letting the overwhelmedness, the resistance fold me, I embraced it and I let it mold me. I said, okay, what needs to happen here? How do I need to show up as the CEO? What do I need to look into? Who do I need to delegate responsibility on this? How do I take the reins on this and own this like a fucking 8-figure CEO? Right? And that grew me. And the only way I was able to step up and own that and create direction and accountability with the team and move forward and problem solve was to get regulated and move through it and know that it won't be the first, it won't be the last. This is going to happen over and over and over again. I wake up every day and I embrace another gut punch instead of going to work for somebody else. And the only way you can come in and take those gut punches day over day is if you have the skill set to move through it and also know that it'll come again and it's temporary. What was so interesting about that whole scenario I just shared with you guys is in the moment, it felt like the world was coming to an end. I remember Jackie and I being on the line, really feeling like this was just awful. And in 48 hours, we had it completely turned around. And so it's those moments of reminding yourself, I've been here before. I remember feeling like it was the end of the world. Give yourself 24 to 40 hours. And that is what I said to my husband when I just totally lost it on him on that Saturday. I said, I just need 48 hours to get through this. I know everything's going to be okay, but I just got to release all of this right now. My body is overwhelmed. Okay. Enough about that. So nervous system regulation 2.0 is what I went through this year. And I was so grateful to have done the groundwork and been a student of it the year before. The next thing I did is I took my power back. Over the year, I realized that my power was in me. I grew this business to where it was. I was the CEO. I was the face of the company. I was the founder. And I too quickly assumed someone else knew better than me to take us to the next level. And I actually delegated a CMO role to someone who had no experience with my type of business and launching. They had experience with low ticket offers, selling to the masses, major email marketing over on Instagram. Their resume looked really shiny, but the reality is they didn't know shit about my business. And I realized somewhere in the middle of the year, wait a damn minute, right? Wait a minute. Why am I letting someone who has no experience continue to make decisions in my business that are becoming really costly and really catastrophic? Our margin, one of the reasons our margins were so bad this year is because I took their advice on spending like crazy. You need 20,000 on this email this thing here. You need $1 kajillion spent on this over here. We got to spend money on that website over there. I had let go of my power and said, well, she must know. And I'm just paying the bill. But at some point in the middle of the year, it was like, I'm not seeing the return on this. All I'm seeing is significant overhead with little profitability. And I'm not sure that this person knows more than I know about running my business. Light bulb moment. Of course she doesn't. She's never run my business. She never run a business like mine before. So my caution to all of you here is that we do need astronauts, lots of smart astronauts on our team to take us to the stratosphere, to get to the next galaxy, all the things. You do need to bring in key talent in many spaces as the CEO with people who know things that you don't to elevate your business. I want to underscore that. However, you also need to be wildly aware, and I'm speaking to myself, when you're giving away your power too soon, and be wildly aware, and this is where I failed this year, holding people radically responsible for KPIs, key performing indicators, when you're investing a lot in them. This is the difference between a 7-figure CEO and an 8-figure CEO. The numbers are really important when you're investing and the stakes are high, that you're holding people accountable to their role. Right? The biggest mistake I made was I brought this person in and I did not hold them accountable to a single bottom line item of ROI in the company. Till 6 months in, I'm like, my margins have really shrunk significantly, like a quarter of what they were last year. And the profitability is not any better. And I encourage you all to not go 6 months, 8 months before you pull the plug. You ask the questions. My lesson on that is if I ever bring another CMO in, I will have very stringent KPIs that are directly tied to the bottom line of the company in the first 30 days, the first 60 days, the first 90 days. I gave away my power because I didn't know what I didn't know. And it was an important, expensive lesson that I needed to learn this year. I realized I needed to get silent and I needed to get rid of the noise and just get better as the CEO. I realized I didn't need a marketer. I didn't need someone to tell me how to create a new widget and sell a new thing or launch something differently. The bottom line was we were still making plenty of money. Nothing was broken. They came in like a bull in a china shop and started to try to change everything around how we were doing it. And it did impact our results. And they'd never been in our shoes before, right? And so what I realized was I was letting a marketer, keep in mind, a marketer who'd never run a multi-7-figure a year business, tell me how to run my business. This was like the light bulb moment for me. I'm like, gosh, not only are they only a marketer, but they've never run a multi-7-figure a year business, much less even a couple $100,000 a year business. And here I was taking their advice on my budget. So what I realized was that what I needed this year, moving into the new year, and Jackie, my CIO, and I have been talking about this throughout the year, what I really needed was mentorship from someone who was running an 8-figure plus a year coaching program. The higher you climb, the less people that you can seek expertise from. This is just reality. The bigger your business becomes, the more niche you are, the less experts are above you to mentor you. What I needed was someone who had been in my shoes that could say, gosh, Melissa, I run coaching programs. I launch like you do, and I'm making $10 to $30 million a year. It is a massive operation. There's a lot of headcount. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of opportunity for waste if you're not careful, redundancy, and loss if you're not really, really meticulous with your business. And so that was the moment in about September or October of this year, I finally came to my senses that it was time to double down and invest in mentors who were living and breathing where I want to be, again, with my growth. I doubled down and invested in 2 different mentorships with over $100,000, right, of mentorships because I knew it's what I needed. And I'm going to say this for those of you who've known me for a while, because I needed to take my ceiling and make it my new floor. I had gone from million to multiple million, now working toward 5 million a year is our goal. I needed to find mentors who'd been there before, right? I was making decisions, and some of you are doing this right now. I was making decisions in my business based off experience of the past. How many of you are doing that right now? I was making decisions in my business based off experience of the past, which obviously when we do what we've always done, we're going to continue to operate in the past and get the results we got. The other thing I was doing was I had delegated a lot of it out to someone who had no idea, like really how to generate leads for what we do as a business, right? From a marketing perspective. And listen, the person I brought in has had wild success with people who sell low ticket stuff over on Instagram and really sophisticated funnels and all the super fancy stuff, but it just doesn't work with what we do. I learned that the hard way. We are a high quality, higher ticket, more sophisticated client base who really operates off of LinkedIn. To hire in someone from the outside who doesn't understand that, I learned can create disaster and toxicity in your business. And it did. It created a toxic work culture for a little. You guys know I hide nothing. So invested in the mentors that have been in my shoes, right? And I learned that I didn't need to delegate out my power yet. I just needed to rise myself up and run and lead and operate my business in a new way. I'm going to say that one more time. I recognized this year, I didn't need to delegate my power out. I didn't need to give away my power. I didn't need to hire in any new executives to help me run my business. I needed to do the work to grow as the CEO to run my business. I needed to grow. And what I was trying to do this past year was give it away. Like, here, you run it. I don't want to do the work. You do it. right? Because the work is a lot. Like to grow your IQ as the CEO, it's a lot of work, right? To do the work on your nervous system so that you have the capacity to hold all this shit you're calling in, it's a lot of work. Listen, there is a reason only 4% of businesses are successful. And there's only 4% of businesses in the world that cross over the $1 million mark. And ladies, if you're a woman, like we're in like the 0.5%. There's a reason for it. You have to do the work. You have to continue to evolve with your business. You have to do the work to change, to raise your IQ, to hold what you're calling in, to lead your team with where you're headed. You can't just put the goal out there and then not have the technical expertise as the CEO to lead the team in that direction. So I got to work. And let me tell you, I started creating radical responsibility. Write that down. Radical responsibility for me and radical responsibility for all of my leaders and every single person in my company. And guess what happens when you do that? Guess what happens? Some people love accountability. Some people love to showcase what they're doing to progress. Others will fucking jump ship because they don't want to be held accountable. They want to fly under the radar, right? And it was easier that way. Get those people out of your company as quickly as you possibly can. Those were the dead leaves blowing away this year, right? We've done a full clean house and I am so ecstatic and I am so proud of the team, the incredible lean team that we have put together for 2025. Incredible teammates who are radically responsible and hyped as shit for where we're headed in the new year, right? And sized right. It was a year of recalibration, right? Recalibration. We have to reorient after all that growth. So I took my power back. I got the work. Over the last quarter, rebuilt my 10-year vision, 10-year business plan, which is 100 million in 10 years. Yes. 3-year business plan and our 1-year goals with the company. In the last quarter, have gotten super clear on not just the revenue and the profit goals for the company next year, and not just the sales strategy. Many of you guys have listened to my business planning retreat workshop. I've double clicked down into that significantly. And what I mean by that is it starts big picture with the team. Hey guys, here's where we're headed next year revenue wise. Here's where we need to be to have a healthy profit margin. Everyone on the team has roles and goals that are aligned and tracked to meet up to those top level goals in the company. See, when your team can understand how their individual role and their day-to-day work wraps up and directly ties to the company goal, they're like, bet, game on, and then throw a comp plan on top of it that incentivizes them to hit those numbers. And like I said, you have teammates who are like, game on, let's do it. And you have some that are like, looks like a lot of work and accountability. I don't know. I think I'm going to go find somewhere where I can hide behind my computer and not be held accountable. Get them the fuck out. You don't want them on your team, right? You don't want them in your company. Let them go. All right. So as the CEO, this is another thing I want to say. I heard Donald Miller say this the other day, and it's so true. As the CEO, it's all about money and it's not about the money. It's this duality. It's the duality. Because as the CEO, you have to watch the margin. You have to watch the revenue in the company. If I want you to envision your company as a jet that's got rocket fuel in it, right? Or airplane fuel, whatever. The gas is the money. And the plane stays up in the air as long as there's cash flow and healthy margins in the company. And your employees or your team get paid every month. And so they're like, why is it always about the money? Why is it always about the profit margin? Because they get their paycheck every month. But the CEO has to keep their eye on the money, because if the company doesn't have healthy margins, nobody has a job. So my friends, it is about the money. But the bottom line is it's about the client and it's about their experience and it's about their satisfaction and it's about their transformation. Because if they don't get the transformation, they're not satisfied. That impacts your bottom line, and it impacts the income, and it impacts the profitability, which impacts everyone's job that you love and care about. So one of the most important things I have learned this year is to get your leadership team on board with your revenue goals and help them understand why the revenue goals are directly tied to the client service and client impact and how it impacts the margins in the company, and it impacts their paycheck, and it impacts the health of the company. Because otherwise your team is blind to just getting a paycheck. And they're going to be like, why is she always talking about the money? Well, because if there is no money, there is no business. And if there is no business, there is no transformation for the clients, and there is no job for your team. So what I've learned this year is how I can help my team see their individual roles as being directly tied to the goals in the company. We keep that plane up in the air, never running out of gas, and everybody happy, and everybody employed, and transformations for the client. So this has evolved into giving really clear direction with my team, giving them a clear vision of that direct impact. So for instance, our goal in 2025 is a 25% profit margin while we reduce waste and we increase efficiency. Okay. We're not actually launching anything new. I'm not creating outrageous sales goals. We are literally repeating what we did last year, but being better stewards of the company's budget. This is what I learned this year. Your team is not much different than when you take your kids to Target, right? When you go to Target, what happens? Mom, can I have this toy? Mom, this toy looks amazing. Mom, can I have this? Listen, I love my team, and they're here for the betterment of the company, and they're always looking for great ideas and resources that can support the company. But that's what happens. Let's use this awesome copywriter. Hey, can we pull in this fancy technology? Hey, this app would be really great for the live event. They have all these great ideas that are not much different than going through Target with your grocery cart. And when you're in Target with your grocery cart, you got a budget. You know what you're going to spend while you're there, and you've got boundaries for what the kids can buy, right? And so inside your business, when you can create entrepreneurs, people on your team who are also keeping their eye on the budget and what they're spending, right? You're going to create a more profitable, well-run company that's way more efficient. So this year, I'm not aiming for the moon to grow our revenue any more than about 5 million in total committed sales, right? But where all of our profit margins are going to come from is reducing waste and improving efficiency inside the company. The way I would articulate this and what I've learned from the great mentors I'm working with right now is that everyone on my team has what we call 3 profitable pursuits. I learned this from Kelly, right? That impact the top line of the company. So I'll give you an example. If our goal is to improve profit margin and put us at 25% profit margin, reduce waste, increase efficiency, then for customer service, right? Their 3 profitable pursuits are client satisfaction scores, right? So if clients are highly satisfied, this is going to improve their renewal rate, their ascension rate, or retention rate with the client, right? So this draws a direct line from my customer service lead to how her work and service impacts the company goal, right? Renewal rates is another one of her KPIs. How frequently are clients renewing? How frequently are clients ascension rates? These 3 KPIs are measured for her on a monthly basis, right? Now, these activities and her focus on them as customer service directly impact the efficiency in the company, right? The reduction of waste, meaning we're not losing clients because they're not satisfied. We're nurturing them and ascending them up. And in the process, improving the profit margins of the company. We didn't have to go sell another damn thing to create more revenue in the company by being good stewards of the money and being focused on our key performing indicators as individuals within the company. I hope this is making sense for you guys, right? Same thing with finance. So I'll give you another example. Some of her profitable pursuits are recovery rates. When people's credit card numbers, like they move, their addresses change, their last names change, their cards expire. How quickly are we getting these back in the system? How quickly are we reaching out to the client? How quickly are we getting them in the system? What we learned this year is we were going 6 to 8 months with clients with lapsed bills. Is that wasteful? Yes. Can we improve profit margins without selling another thing by being focused on somebody being held accountable to this every month? Yes. Did I have to grow as the CEO? Did I have to double down and look at the numbers, do the hard thing, create the plan, create the scorecard, and have the conversations with my team? Yes, because that's what a CEO does that's moving to the 8-figure mark. I had to struggle through this year to come to this conclusion myself. It's like in January, God just said, hey, hold my beer while I go teach Melissa a couple of lessons. That's what happened this year. And I was like, okay, I'm here for it. What are the lessons? Like, I'm bracing, and like, let's go. Right? I'll give you another example with my marketing team, right? Some profitable pursuits are around organic list growth, organic launch registration, organic launch registration. So that impacts sales. It impacts a reduction in the spend of ads. That impacts revenue. It impacts waste. It impacts all the things, right? So now my marketing project manager can see how she individually contributes to the company goal, right? You guys, I wasn't doing this last year. I didn't take months with business plans. I have been working on the business plan since like freaking October, right? We've been rolling it out as we've gone. Now, here's the thing I want to wrap up with, because I've been rambling for like an hour. You guys will have to let me know if you like these solo podcasts. I haven't been doing them lately, and we've gotten feedback that you guys want more of these. So let me know in the DMs if you want more solos of these types. Here's the thing in my recap of this past year, because I've been telling you a lot about business and nervous system regulation. What I want to say, though, is in spite of the challenges I was up against that I needed to learn this year, the lessons and the blessings, I stayed healthy and I had fun despite all the challenges. That might have been the biggest part of my growth this year, is I can live in a world of duality. I can be up against challenge, resistance, hard, doing the work, and I can show up with love and joy and take care of myself. I still went to Ireland for a week with my husband. I still went to Maine for 2 weeks with my kids. My executive assistant put her submission in for leaving the week I went on vacation to Maine for 2 weeks. I could have let that take me down into a rabbit hole, but I didn't. Because I've learned that this is the journey of entrepreneurship, that there will always be ebbs and flows. There will always be challenges, and how you move through it and you don't resist it will make or break you. It will hold you or it will mold you, right? And I also took tons of trips to the mountains with the kids and my husband. We're building this beautiful luxury retreat mountain home. The laughter didn't stop. Life didn't stop. Taking care of my health never stopped. Actually did squats today, over 300 pounds, PR, personal record. So much immense gratitude for my husband. I feel like my husband and I live in a world of yin and yang, where he'll have a really tough year and I am highly sourced and I can support him. And then I'll have a really tough year and he is highly sourced and he supports me. And I feel like this has been such a supportive year that he has supported me and held me, and even the children. It's been a growth year for me that I've been learning so much. There's been so much unknown versus the certainty of the way the year before went. And I could not have done it without the support of my family. And I think about my A team who's been here since January, riding this journey, and how much they have grown, how much they have evolved along with me. This journey was for them too. And they were like, bring it. Let's grow. Let's go. And they're so fired up for 2025. Challenges are here to change you, not destroy you. If you can keep that mindset, when you're up against challenge, know that it's a growth time. When things are easy, you're not growing. So I really look at it in a resistance year. I'm like, okay, God, you're really preparing me for something big. And I can't wait to redrop this podcast at the end of next year and be like, I told you so, right? Because this year has molded my company for something huge, epic shifts, epic growth for me, epic growth for my team. And I encourage you, can you get curious about the challenge? Can you get curious about the change? Can you get curious about the resistance and take more time to be curious and ask questions about the resistance you're getting? And so what does the future look like? Well, I can tell you right now that we closed our books for November and had our highest profit margin of the year, 37.7%, which tells me the plan we've been putting in place, the action we've been taking, the efficiencies we've put into the system are working. We've streamlined process. There's so many things that we've done to impact how we operate. We've reduced so many redundancies and waste in the company, which took us time to pause and audit and ask a lot of questions. Why are we doing it this way? Why is this person doing this when we have someone else who's paid to do this? It was a grueling process. I will tell you two things. Sitting down and doing the work for the trauma within me, and sitting down and doing the work to map out a new business strategy, a new way to lead my company, a new way to hold my team accountable. It was a lot of fucking work. And some of you aren't up for it. And some of you are. I am here to tell you that it's worth it. I can't tell you the cloud nine I've been on, finalizing all the conversations that I'm having with my team and the smiles on their face from ear to ear, because they are super clear on where we're headed next year. They're super clear on how they're held accountable and how they can get paid an unlimited amount of income based off their efforts towards the goal. And they're super clear on how their role directly ties to the company goals. That is worth. It's priceless. I sleep well at night right now. I look at my plan, my team looks at the plan, and they're like, we get it. It is doable. And I'm excited to be held accountable for it. And it's already working. But if the challenge had not happened, had I not hit the resistance this year, I wouldn't have questioned everything. I needed the resistance to get into disorientation, to feel disoriented in order to then reorient my business in a radically different way, to be prepared for what we're calling in next, to be that $100 million company in 10 years in totality and impact over 1 million entrepreneurs, right? That's the 10-year vision. I've gained so much wisdom this year. It was a reload year for the future. And so I'll part with these words, two things. Number one, this is what I'm asking all of my mastermind clients. What have you learned about yourself this year? I actually have some pretty cool tools in my tool belt to manage stress as an entrepreneur. I learned about myself that I have a whole lot more to learn as I grow as a CEO. What have you learned about yourself? And what are you most proud of? I would say for me, as an Enneagram 8 and a visionary and a CEO and a founder, what I'm most proud of this year might not be what you think. I'm most proud of the humility of being able to say publicly, I made some dumb decisions this year. I appointed some wrong people in the wrong place. And having the humility to say, I made some wrong decisions, but it didn't crush me. I grew from it. And I gained so much wisdom from making those decisions that have grown me to the company that we're evolving to become. So what are you proud of this year? And let it go out and fucking kick ass in 2025, my friends. The moral of the story is resiliency above all. Do you have the tools to be resilient when things get hard? Because when things get hard, you're about to change. And when you're about to change, you're about to evolve. And when you're about to evolve, you're about to create even larger impact. So with that, I will sign off, my friends. I hope you have a wonderful holiday break. Thanks, guys, so much for listening in on today's podcast episode. And I can't wait for you to see my upcoming guest in the next episode. You are going to love this keynote speaker. Hey, here's the deal. If you liked this, please subscribe and leave a review. And you want the latest online business growth strategies and exclusive LinkedIn pro tips sent straight to your phone? Text the word update to 704-318-2285. That is, text the word update to 704-318-2285. Can't wait to see you guys. Come find me over on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you like to hang. Cannot wait to hear how you are enjoying and applying what you're learning. You guys reach out to me over on social because I love hearing what's resonating with you. When you reach out to me and you send me those personal DMs, they really do impact the content I continue to bring forward to you. So again, come find me, Melissa_Hinault over on Instagram, Melissa Hinault over on LinkedIn and Facebook. Can't wait to see you guys over there.